You worthless little mistake. I should have flushed you down the toilet the second I knew you existed. My mother screamed that right before she kicked me out of the car in a freezing Walmart parking lot in Kentucky. I was 9 years old, bleeding from my lip, still crying and begging her not to leave me. 1 year later, she declared me dead. She forged a house fire, signed my death certificate, and cashed $285,000 in life insurance money like I was nothing more than a profitable accident. 17 years later, she walked into my baby shower with crocodile tears and designer baby gifts, still pretending to be a mother. But the second she saw my husband standing there, her face turned ghost white, because the man who had spent months building an airtight fraud case against her was now the father of the grandchild she came to use. My name is Elise Shepherd, 28 years old. If you've ever been thrown away by your own blood, stick around. This story ends with the kind of justice you've been waiting to hear. But to understand how a mother erases her own child, you need to know what my childhood looked like before she threw me away. The apartment on Maple Ridge Road smelled like cigarette smoke and cheap beer. The carpet was the color of old coffee stains. I learned early that silence was safer than speaking. Travis moved in when I was 6, and within weeks, the whole atmosphere of the house changed. My mother stopped laughing the way she used to. She started watching Travis's face before she answered any question, even the simple ones like what we were having for dinner. I became an expert at reading the tension in her shoulders. Some nights I would lie in bed listening to them argue in the next room, pressing Cotton the rabbit against my ears so I wouldn't hear the sound of skin hitting skin. I told myself it was normal. All families had rules. I just had more of them. I was 6 when Travis Holbrook moved into our apartment on Maple Ridge Road in Columbus, Ohio. My mother, Colleen, worked double shifts at Green's Bar and Grill, and I think she saw Travis as some kind of stability. He had a steady paycheck from the warehouse. He didn't drink as much as her previous boyfriends. He smiled at me the first week. The rules started in month 2. No talking during his TV time. No making noise after 7 p.m. Eat everything on your plate or you don't eat at all. Call him sir, not Travis. Don't ask questions. Don't exist too loudly. My mother didn't argue with him. I noticed that first. She'd always been sharp with the other boyfriends, told them where to go when they got too demanding. But with Travis, she just nodded. She started choosing him over me in small ways that felt like paper cuts, sitting with him in the living room while I ate alone at the yellow kitchen table, laughing at his jokes when they were about me, telling me to be good when what she really meant was disappear. By the time I was 7, Travis had started calling me the mistake. My mother never corrected him. The first time he hit me, I was 7.5. Summer, 2006. I spilled juice on the carpet during one of his shows. He didn't yell. He just stood up, grabbed my arm, and shoved me toward the basement stairs. I fell. 3 steps, maybe 4. I remember the edge of the concrete hitting my ribs. I remember not being able to breathe. My mother drove me to Riverside Hospital that night. The doctor asked what happened. She said I fell off my bike. The doctor looked at me, waiting for confirmation. I looked at my mother's face. The warning was clear in her eyes. Yes, I said. I fell off my bike. The X-ray showed a hairline fracture on my 7th rib, left side. They gave me a hospital bracelet with my name on it. I pulled it off in the car and hid it in my pocket. I don't know why I kept it. Maybe because it had my name printed on it. Proof I existed. The discharge paperwork said to follow up if the pain worsened. My mother threw it in the parking lot trash can. I watched her do it. Travis got worse after that. Not every day. That's what made it hard to predict. Some weeks, he'd ignore me completely. Other weeks, he'd find reasons. I was too slow getting ready for school. I left a glass in the sink. I breathed too loudly. Spring of 2007, I talked back to him about my homework. He was ironing his work shirt in the living room. I don't even remember what I said. Something about fractions. Something small. He grabbed my arm. He pressed the hot iron against my left shoulder blade. 3 seconds. I screamed. My mother ran in from the kitchen. I thought she'd help me. I thought this was the line. Travis said, "She needs to learn respect." My mother looked at the burn. She looked at me. She said, "Maybe don't leave marks people can see. Not, don't hurt her. Just, don't leave evidence." She put ointment on it that night. Roughly. Like it was my fault for making her deal with this. She told me not to show anyone at school. She told me to wear long sleeves. The scar is still there. Triangular. The exact shape of an iron point. The burn throbbed under the gauze for weeks. At school, I kept my left shoulder turned away from everyone during gym class. When Mrs. Price asked why I was wearing a hoodie in September, I said I was cold. She gave me that long, searching look again. In Ohio public schools back then, teachers were trained to report suspicions, but many hesitated because they knew how messy CPS cases could get. I was grateful she waited. That hesitation probably saved me from worse punishment at home. Every time I changed clothes, I saw the triangular scar forming, a permanent reminder that my body was no longer entirely mine. That night, I lay in bed and listened to them argue through the thin wall. Travis said, "Maybe we should just get rid of her." My mother said, "Don't say shit like that." But she didn't say no. She didn't say, "She's my daughter." She just said, "Don't say it." That's when I started to understand. I wasn't a daughter. I was a problem she hadn't figured out how to solve yet. By 3rd grade, I'd gotten good at hiding. I wore long sleeves even in May. I kept my head down. I didn't cry at school. I became so quiet that teachers sometimes forgot I was in the room. Mrs. Angela Price was different. She taught 3rd grade, and she noticed things. In the fall of 2007, during PE, she saw the bruises on my arms when my sleeves rode up. She called me to her desk during lunch. She asked gentle questions. "Elise, if something is happening at home, there are people who can help you. You're safe here." I told her I bruised easily. I told her I was fine. She looked at me for a long time. She didn't believe me. I could see it in her face. On November 12, 2007, Mrs. Price called Child Protective Services. Mandatory reporter. I didn't know that at the time. I just knew that 2 days later, my mother got a letter in the mail. I saw the return address. Franklin County Child Protective Services. She opened it at the kitchen table. Her hands shook. She showed it to Travis. "Investigation opened. Home visit scheduled November 20th. Travis said, "We leave tonight." My mother didn't argue. At 2 in the morning on November 15th, my mother woke me up. She said to pack a bag. 10 minutes. I grabbed my school backpack, a change of clothes, my stuffed rabbit named Cotton, and a library book I had checked out 2 weeks earlier. Misty of Chincoteague. It was about a wild horse. I liked that the horse got free. We drove south. I fell asleep in the back seat. When I woke up, we were crossing into Kentucky. It was December 15th, 2007. Sunday evening, around 6:45. We'd been driving for hours. I kept asking where we were going. Travis told me to shut up. I asked for water. He reached back and hit me across the face. My lip split open. Blood ran down my chin. My mother said, "Jesus, Travis, not in the car." Not, "Don't hit her," just, "not in the car." We pulled into a Walmart parking lot in Elizabethtown, Kentucky, just as it started to get dark. The temperature was 28 degrees. Light snow was falling. I could see my breath in the car. My mother turned around in her seat. I thought she was going to clean my lip. I thought maybe she'd changed her mind. She screamed at me instead. "You worthless little mistake! I should have flushed you down the toilet the second I knew you existed. Then she opened the back door. She grabbed my arm and physically shoved me out of the car. I fell onto the pavement. My hand scraped the asphalt. My lip was still bleeding. I was crying. I was begging. Mommy, please don't leave me, please. I'm sorry, I'll be good. She slammed the door. The car drove away. I sat there on the curb, clutching cotton, bleeding, freezing. I watched the taillights disappear. I kept thinking she'd come back. That this was a lesson, that she'd circle around and tell me I'd learn my place. She didn't come back. By 8:15, I was hypothermic. A Walmart security guard named Raymond Hayes found me. He was 62, a grandfather type with kind eyes. He wrapped me in his jacket and called the police. Officer Janet Reynolds arrived at 8:50. She knelt down next to me and asked my name. I whispered, Eleanor. But everyone calls me Ellie. I don't know where I'm from anymore. She took me to the station. They gave me hot chocolate and a blanket. They asked me questions I couldn't answer. Where did my mother go? I didn't know. Why did she leave me? I didn't know. I spent that first night in a Kentucky emergency shelter. I clutched cotton and stared at the ceiling. I was 9 years old. I didn't know that my mother had already decided I was more valuable dead than alive. The bureaucracy moved faster than I expected. Kentucky Child Services opened a case. They discovered I was an Ohio resident. Interstate compact on the placement of children kicked in. Ohio CPS claimed me back. On December 28, 2007, a caseworker named Vanessa Ortiz drove me across state lines. She was 41, 15 years of experience, and she didn't talk much during the drive. I liked that. I was tired of people asking me how I felt. We arrived in Dayton, Ohio, on January 12, 2008. She pulled up to a house on Kettering Boulevard. It was a small ranch-style home with a neat lawn and a porch light that was already on even though it was only 4 in the afternoon. A woman opened the door before we even knocked. She was in her early 50s, with graying hair pulled back in a ponytail and a soft face. She smiled at me. Hi, sweetheart. I'm Sandra Morrison. This is my husband, Paul. We're so glad you're here. Paul stood behind her, tall, quiet, the kind of man who looked like he'd never raised his voice in his life. He nodded at me. I didn't say anything. I'd learned not to trust kindness too quickly. Sandra led me inside. The house smelled like cookies. There was a bedroom ready for me. It had a twin bed with a yellow quilt, a small desk, and a bookshelf. Sandra said I could put Cotton anywhere I wanted. I put him on the pillow. I didn't unpack anything else. Sandra noticed right away. She didn't push. Instead, she left little things on my desk each day. A new notebook, a pack of colored pencils, a small potted violet plant. For your windowsill, she said softly. Paul would come home from his trucking runs and always knock before entering my room. He taught me how to make grilled cheese the way his mother did, with a thin layer of mayo on the outside. Simple things, safe things. For the first time in my life, dinner wasn't a test I could fail. I still slept with the lights on for months. Sandra never complained about the electric bill. She just left a nightlight shaped like a moon plugged in near the door and said, "In case you need to find the bathroom." That first month, I barely spoke. I ate when they told me to eat. I went to school when they told me to go. I waited for them to get tired of me. I waited for the rules to start. I waited for someone to hit me. No one did. Sandra worked as a bank teller at Fifth Third Bank. Paul was a truck driver for Schneider National. They weren't rich. They weren't perfect. But they were steady. They showed up. They asked me what I wanted for breakfast. Not what was easiest. Not what was left over. What I wanted. On January 30th, 2008, Sandra took me to the Dayton Metro Library and helped me get a library card. It was the first official document I'd had with my name on it since the hospital bracelet. She handed it to me. It has your name on it. Elise Shepherd. That's who you are. You're real. You're here. You count. I memorized the number. 2008 001 5523. I carried that card in my wallet for 18 years. What I didn't know was that on that same day, 72 miles north in Columbus, my mother was sitting at a kitchen table with Travis, filling out life insurance claim forms. My mother took out 2 life insurance policies on me in 2007, the first one in March, the second one in June, both right before she ran. Policy 1. Save kids' whole life through State Farm. $50,000. She said it was for my college fund. Policy 2. Bright Future Life Insurance through Liberty Mutual. $235,000. She said it was an education trust. Total, $285,000. She paid the premiums for 8 months. Then, in January of 2009, she filed death claims on both policies. The paperwork said I died on December 17, 2007. House fire. Residential address. 1823 Maple Ridge Road, Columbus, Ohio. No remains recovered. She attached a fire marshal report. Forged. The signature belonged to a Deputy Marshal T. Henderson who didn't exist. She attached a death certificate. Also forged. The coroner's signature was fake. She attached a witness statement from Travis Holbrook, who claimed he saw the fire, tried to save me, but couldn't find my body in the wreckage. The insurance companies didn't investigate much. It was 2009. The system was pre-digital. Cross-checking records took time and money. A 9-year-old child dying in a fire was tragic, but it wasn't suspicious enough to warrant a deep dive. State Farm paid out $50,000 on March 12, 2009. Liberty Mutual paid out $235,000 on April 3, 2009. Total deposited into my mother's account at Bank of Cincinnati, $285,000. On March 12th, the same day the first check cleared, I was sitting in a 4th grade classroom at Dayton View Elementary School. I was learning long division. I was alive. I was 72 miles away from the house that supposedly burned down with me inside. My mother knew I was alive. She'd left me at a Walmart 3 weeks before she filed the claims. She knew exactly where I was. She declared me dead anyway. She spent the money in 18 months. Gambling. Boyfriends. A used car she totaled 6 months later. Designer clothes. Nights out. By the end of 2010, it was gone. I didn't know any of this. I was busy trying to figure out how to be a kid again. The Morrisons didn't adopt me legally. The process was expensive, and they were working-class people. But in April of 2012, when I was 14, they sat me down and told me they wanted to make it official in every way that mattered. Sandra said, "We can't afford the legal fees right now, sweetheart, but that doesn't change anything. You're our daughter. You always will be." Paul nodded. He wasn't a man of many words, but when he spoke, it meant something. "You're ours, Ellie. That's not up for debate." I cried that day. Not the scared crying from when I was 9, the kind of crying that means something broke open inside you in a good way. That same year, they helped me legally change my name. I'd been going by my middle name, Elise, since I moved in with them. It felt like a fresh start. The court granted the petition. Eleanor Elise Shepherd became Elise Shepherd. A small thing, but it felt like I was choosing who I wanted to be. That summer, we planted tomatoes in the backyard together, just like thousands of other working-class families in Ohio. Sandra said gardening taught patience. I learned that some things grow even when you don't believe they will. Every Saturday library trip became sacred. I would check out 8 books at a time, the maximum the Dayton Metro Library allowed, and read under the covers with a flashlight when I couldn't sleep. Sandra never once told me to turn the light off. She understood that books were the safest place I had ever found. Sandra and I developed rituals. Every Saturday morning, we went to the library. She'd browse the mystery section. I'd sit in the young adult corner and read for hours. We'd get lunch at the diner across the street afterward. She never asked me about my mother. She never pushed me to talk about the past. She just let me exist. Paul taught me practical things: how to change a tire, how to check the oil in a car, how to fix a leaky faucet. He said, "You're never going to be stuck. You're going to know how to take care of yourself." I went to therapy with Dr. Rita Caldwell, a child psychologist, every week from 2008 to 2013. She was patient. She didn't force me to forgive anyone. She didn't tell me I'd get over it. She just helped me name what had happened: abuse, abandonment, survival. I graduated from Colonel White High School in May of 2016. Sandra and Paul sat in the audience and cried when I walked across the stage. I remember looking at them and thinking, these are my parents. Not because of blood, because they chose me. That August, they helped me move into my dorm at Ohio State University. I was majoring in library science. Sandra hugged me in the parking lot and said, "You call us anytime, day or night. You are our daughter. You always will be." I said, "I know, Mom." It was the first time I'd called her that. We both cried. I kept cotton on a shelf in my dorm room, too precious to lose. A reminder that I'd carried something soft through something hard. I graduated from Ohio State in May of 2020 with a degree in library science. By August, I'd landed a job as a library media specialist at Westwood Elementary School in Columbus, $43,000 a year. It wasn't much, but it was mine. I had a one-bedroom apartment in Clintonville. I had bookshelves. I had a life. On Thursday evenings, I went to a book club at the Clintonville Public Library. Mostly retirees and a few younger people like me. On September 10th, 2022, we were discussing The Nightingale. I was sitting in the corner, half listening to the debate about whether one sister's sacrifice was nobler than the other's, when a man sat down in the chair next to me. He was tall, dark-haired, early 30s. He had the kind of face that looked like he'd spent a lot of time thinking before he spoke. He smiled at me. "What do you think?" he asked. I blinked. "About what?" "The sisters. Which one would you be?" I thought about it. "The one who survived." He laughed. Not at me. With me. Fair answer. His name was Gabriel Whitmore. He was 30 years old, a senior fraud investigator at Nationwide Insurance. He'd moved to Columbus from Cleveland 2 years earlier for the job. He liked mystery novels and hiking and coffee that was too strong. He had a methodical way of talking, like he was always thinking 3 steps ahead. We got coffee after book club. We talked for 3 hours straight that night. I told him I worked with kids who loved books as much as I did. He told me about investigating insurance fraud and how some people built entire lives on lies. Neither of us knew how close that subject would hit home later. He walked me to my car and didn't try to hug me. Just said, "I'd like to do this again if you're comfortable." That respect, the fact that he waited for my comfort, was new to me. Over the next months, we hiked at Cedar Creek, visited the farmers' market in German Village, and spent quiet evenings on my tiny balcony reading side by side. He never rushed me to open up about my past. That 3-hour conversation turned into a first date the next week, then a second, then a third. On the 4th date in October, I told him about my childhood. Not everything. Not the insurance fraud I didn't know about. But I told him about the abuse, the abandonment, the Morrisons, foster care. He listened. He didn't interrupt. When I finished, he said, "You survived. That takes strength." He didn't pity me. He didn't try to fix me. He just saw me. We dated for a year and a half. In December of 2023, he proposed in the Morrisons' living room. Sandra cried. Paul shook his hand and said, "You take care of her." Gabriel said, Always. We got married on June 15th, 2024. Small ceremony. 30 people. The Morrisons, Gabriel's parents, a few close friends. I wore a simple white dress. Sandra helped me get ready. When I looked in the mirror, I thought about the 9-year-old girl sitting in a Walmart parking lot, bleeding and freezing, thinking no one would ever love her. I thought, you were wrong. You made it. In September of 2024, I found out I was pregnant. We told the Morrisons on September 28th. Sandra cried again. She cried a lot, but it was always the good kind. Gabriel and I started planning a baby shower for April. I was due in June. Everything felt right. Safe. Settled. Gabriel had been working late a lot since October. He said it was a big case. I didn't push. I trusted him. I had no idea what he'd discovered. On October 15th, 2025, Nationwide Insurance launched an internal audit. They were reviewing fraud claims from 2008 to 2010. Something about patterns. Red flags they'd missed. A batch of suspicious child death claims that had been paid out with minimal investigation. Gabriel was assigned a dozen cases on November 8th. File after file. Kids who supposedly died. Fires, accidents, drownings. The common thread, policies taken out within a year of death. Minimal investigation, quick payouts. One of the files was labeled Case Number 2009-0H-3382. Deceased. Eleanor Shepard, DOB May 15th, 1998. Claimed death, December 17th, 2007. Payout, $285,000 across 2 policies. Mother, Colleen Shepard. Gabriel read through it. A 9-year-old girl, allegedly died in a house fire. No body recovered. The fire marshal report looked off. The death certificate had a forged signature. The witness was the mother's boyfriend, who'd later died in prison in 2019. He flagged it. Suspicious. Likely fraud. But he didn't recognize the name, Eleanor Shepard. It didn't mean anything to him yet. That changed on February 14th, 2026. Valentine's Day. We were sitting at the kitchen table going through insurance paperwork. I was 7 months pregnant by then. Gabriel was updating our beneficiary forms. He needed my original birth certificate. I handed it to him. He looked at it. Then he looked at me. Then back at the certificate. Eleanor Elise Shepard. Born May 15th, 1998. Mother, Colleen Shepard. He went very still. Eleanor, he said slowly. Your birth name is Eleanor? I nodded. Yeah, I went by Ellie as a kid. I changed it to Elise when I was 14. Fresh start. Why? He didn't answer. He stood up, walked to his home office, and pulled a file from his briefcase. He opened it. He stared at the case number, then at my birth certificate, then at me. His face went pale. Gabriel, what's wrong? He sat back down. He put the birth certificate next to the case file. Same name, same birthday, same mother. He said, Elise, I need you to sit down. The kitchen felt too small suddenly. The clock on the wall ticked louder than usual. I stared at the birth certificate in his hand, the same one I had carried like proof of existence since I was 14. Gabriel's hands were shaking slightly, something I had never seen before. This man who calmly investigated million-dollar fraud cases was rattled because the case had walked into our home and was carrying our baby. He told me everything he knew so far, voice low and careful, as if the truth itself might break me. I listened without crying. I had cried enough as a child. Now I just felt cold, clear anger settling in my bones. I was already sitting. He said, the case I've been working on, the fraud investigation, It's about a woman who declared her daughter dead in 2009 and collected life insurance. I stared at him. He said, the daughter's name was Eleanor Shepard, born May 15th, 1998. The room tilted. He said, your mother declared you dead. She collected $285,000. She's been living under the assumption that she got away with it for 17 years. I couldn't breathe. He said, I've been investigating your mother since November. I didn't know it was her until just now. Gabriel told me everything that night. The two policies, the forged documents, the payout, the timeline. I was alive in foster care while my mother was cashing checks on my death. I asked him why. Why would she do that? He said, money. And because she could. The next morning, February 15th, Gabriel went to his supervisor and disclosed the conflict of interest. He couldn't be the lead investigator on a case involving his wife. Nationwide's legal team and HR made a decision. Gabriel was recused from the lead role. A senior investigator named Karen Mitchell took over. But the evidence Gabriel had already gathered was valid. It had been collected before he knew I was involved. Over the next 3 weeks, Mitchell verified everything independently. She found the CPS reports from 2007. She found the Kentucky police report from when I was found at Walmart. She found my school records from Dayton, showing I was alive and enrolled in 4th grade in 2009. She found the property records for Maple Ridge Road. No fire had occurred at that address. She also found something Gabriel had missed. Before Travis Holbrook died in prison in 2019, he'd written a confession letter to a cellmate. The letter mentioned an insurance job in Ohio. The cellmate had kept it. When prison officials inventoried Travis's property after his death, the letter was filed. Mitchell tracked it down. It was damning. Travis explicitly stated that the fire story was fake, that they'd abandoned me in Kentucky, and that it had been my mother's idea to file the death claims. By early March, the case was airtight. On March 10th, Mitchell submitted the evidence package to the Franklin County Prosecutor's Office. 2 detectives from the Columbus PD Fraud Unit were assigned. An arrest warrant was drafted. Gabriel came home that night and told me it was almost over. My mother would be arrested soon. He asked if I wanted to be involved in the process, if I wanted to testify. I said yes. What we didn't know was that my mother had already been warned. On March 12th, 2026, my mother got a phone call. The call came from a private investigator named Raymond Burke. He'd been hired by my mother's boyfriend, Dale Hoffman, a construction worker who'd started to suspect she was hiding something. She'd been nervous for weeks, drinking more, jumpy. Burke did what PIs do. He ran public record searches. He found old addresses. He found the insurance claim from 2009. He found property records showing no fire had occurred. He found a subpoena issued in February by the Franklin County Prosecutor's Office requesting insurance records related to Shepard, Eleanor, DOB May 15th, 1998. He put it together. He called my mother. I found some concerning records. There's legal activity around an insurance claim from 2009. You should probably get ahead of this. My mother panicked. She knew what that meant. Someone was investigating. Someone had figured it out. She asked Burke if he could find Eleanor, find out where she was now. Burke searched. Marriage license, June 2024. Elise Shepard married Gabriel Whitmore. Address, Columbus, Ohio. He found more. Facebook. A baby shower invite set to public. April 12th, 2026. 2 p.m. Location. Morrison Residence, Dayton. My mother stared at the screen. Her daughter. Alive, married, pregnant. She had a choice. She could disappear again. Or she could try to control the narrative before it controlled her. She chose option 2. Over the next 3 weeks, she planned. She needed to get to me before the police did. She needed me to sign something. A statement saying it was all a misunderstanding. Or better yet, she needed me to refuse to cooperate with the investigation. Family loyalty, forgiveness, the leverage of a grandchild. She practiced in the mirror. The tears, the apologies, the script. Baby, I'm so sorry. I was young and scared. I made mistakes. I've been sober for years. I just want to meet my grandchild. And if that didn't work, she had a backup plan. Discredit me. Say I was mentally unstable. Say I'd run away and she'd thought I died in foster care. Say I was lying for attention. She rehearsed both versions. On April 10th, she opened 2 new credit cards, store cards at baby boutiques. She maxed them out. Designer diaper bag, $385. Silver baby rattle, $275. Luxury baby monitor, $299. Total, over $1,000 she didn't have and would never pay back. She planned to show up at my baby shower with gifts, tears, and a performance that would make it impossible for me to turn her away in front of a crowd. What she didn't plan for was that Gabriel would be there. April 12th, 2026. Saturday. The day was perfect. 68 degrees. Sunny. The kind of spring day that felt like a gift. Sandra and I spent the morning setting up in the Morrisons' backyard. Yellow and gray decorations, a balloon arch, a banner that said, Baby Whitmore. There were tables with food Sandra had spent 2 days preparing. Lasagna, salad, fruit, a dessert table. Guests started arriving around 1:30. Morrison family, my teacher friends from Westwood Elementary, book club people, some of Gabriel's co-workers, 38 people total. I was wearing a yellow maternity dress and comfortable flats. I was 8 months pregnant, tired but happy. This was my family, the people I'd chosen and who'd chosen me back. Gabriel wasn't there yet. He'd told me he had a work thing until 3 and would come straight from the office. I texted him around 2:15. Everyone's asking where you are. He replied, on my way, 20 minutes. Sorry. At 2:45, I was opening gifts. Someone had given me a set of baby books. Someone else had given me a handmade quilt. People were laughing, taking pictures, playing the baby shower games Sandra had planned. Then a car pulled up. I didn't recognize it at first. A Nissan Altima, silver, 10 years old. The driver's side door opened. A woman got out. She was overdressed. Too much makeup. Trying too hard to look put together. She was carrying bags. Multiple shopping bags with expensive logos. She walked through the side gate into the backyard like she'd been invited. Everyone stopped talking. I stared at her. I hadn't seen her in 16 years, but I knew her face. The shape of her eyes. The way she held her mouth. I knew her the way you know the person who hurt you, even after they've been gone long enough to become a ghost. Sandra Morrison stood up. Colleen, my mother smiled. It was too bright. Sandra, hi, I know I'm not supposed to be here, but I heard about the baby shower and I couldn't stay away. She looked at me. Tears were already forming in her eyes. Ellie, baby, I'm so sorry. I've wanted to reach out for so long. I've been in therapy. I've been sober. I know I don't deserve your forgiveness, but I just wanted to meet my grandchild. Please. She held up the bags. I brought gifts. I know it doesn't make up for anything, but I couldn't speak. I felt like I was 9 years old again, frozen in a Walmart parking lot. Sandra stepped between us. You need to leave. Now. The backyard, which had been filled with laughter just minutes earlier, became painfully quiet. I could hear the plastic tablecloth flapping in the light breeze. Guests shifted uncomfortably in their folding chairs. Some of my teacher friends from Westwood Elementary exchanged glances. They knew pieces of my story, but not the full horror. My mother's perfume, The same cheap floral scent she used when I was little drifted across the yard and made my stomach turn. It smelled like broken promises. My mother ignored her. She looked at the guests. Her voice got louder, more performative. I know I made mistakes. I was young. I was scared. I wasn't ready to be a mother. But I've changed. I've spent 17 years regretting what I did. All I'm asking for is a chance. Some of the guests looked uncomfortable. They didn't know the history. They didn't know that mistakes meant abuse and abandonment and declaring me dead for money. One of Gabriel's coworkers, a kind older woman, said softly, "Everyone deserves a second chance." My mother latched onto that. "Thank you. That's all I'm asking for. Just a chance to be part of my daughter's life again. To be a grandmother." She took a step toward me. "Ellie, please. Could I at least meet your husband? I'd like to apologize to him, too, for not being there. For not being the mother you deserved." She looked toward the driveway. "I promise. I'm different now." She stopped mid-sentence. A car had just pulled up. Gabriel's car. I recognized the black sedan. My mother's face changed. The tears stopped. Her mouth opened slightly. She stared at the car like it had just materialized out of her worst nightmare. Gabriel's car had a nationwide insurance parking sticker on the windshield. Small, but visible. She went pale. Gabriel got out of the car. He wasn't alone. 2 other people got out with him. A woman in her 40s wearing a blazer, a man in his 50s in a suit. They didn't look like party guests. My mother took a step back. Gabriel walked into the backyard. He saw me. He saw my mother. His expression didn't change. The woman in the blazer spoke first. She pulled out a badge. "Mrs. Colleen Shepherd?" My mother didn't answer. The woman said, "I'm Detective Lauren Briggs, Columbus Police Department Fraud Unit. This is my partner, Detective Jack Monroe. We have a warrant for your arrest." The backyard went completely silent. My mother looked at Gabriel. You work for Nationwide. You're the investigator." Gabriel nodded. "I'm also Elise's husband." Her face crumpled, not with sadness, with rage and fear. "This is a setup," she hissed. "You set me up." Gabriel's voice was calm, cold. "No. You set yourself up 17 years ago when you declared your daughter dead and cashed $285,000 in insurance money." Detective Briggs stepped forward. "Mrs. Shepherd, you're under arrest for wire fraud, insurance fraud, forgery of government documents, and filing a false police report. You have the right to remain silent." My mother interrupted. "This is insane. I didn't—" She ran away. "I thought she died. I thought—" Detective Monroe held up a folder. "We have your signature on 2 separate life insurance claims. We have forged death certificates. We have a fire marshal report for a fire that never happened. We have CPS records showing Eleanor Shepherd was alive and in foster care while you were collecting death benefits. We also have a signed confession from Travis Holbrook, written before his death, stating that you orchestrated the fraud." My mother looked at me, desperate now. "Ellie, please, tell them. Tell them this is a mistake. I'm your mother." I stood up. My legs were shaking, but my voice wasn't. "You're not my mother. You stopped being my mother the night you kicked me out of a car in a freezing parking lot and drove away. You declared me dead. You erased me. You profited from my suffering. And now you came here pretending to care. Not because you love me, but because you need me to protect you." Sandra Morrison stepped forward. She had a small notebook in her hands. "Detective Briggs, I'd like to submit evidence. I've been keeping journal entries since Elise came to live with us in 2008. I documented her injuries, the burn scar, the bruises, the signs of abuse." Paul Morrison spoke up, quiet but firm. "We also have the CPS report from when she was placed with us. It details the abuse and abandonment. Gabriel handed Detective Briggs a thick file. This is the complete evidence package: the original insurance claims, the forged documents, the financial records showing where the money went, the school records proving Elise was alive, and Travis Holbrook's confession letter. He looked at my mother. The statute of limitations starts when the fraud is discovered, not when it's committed. Nationwide discovered this in October 2025. You're well within the window for prosecution. My mother tried one last time. She looked at the guests, her voice breaking. Please, somebody. This is my daughter. She's lying. She's mentally ill. You can't believe. Enough. Gabriel's voice cut through. Mrs. Shepherd, you have three options. You can cooperate now. You can remain silent. Or you can keep talking and make it worse. I recommend option 2. Detective Briggs pulled out handcuffs. Turn around, please, my mother screamed. This is a mistake. She's lying. You're all lying. The handcuffs clicked shut. As they walked her toward the police car, she kept screaming. You're mentally ill. You're doing this for attention. I'm your mother. You can't do this to me. Sandra Morrison put her arm around me. Gabriel stood in front of both of us. He looked at my mother one last time. Mrs. Shepherd, you declared your daughter dead and collected $285,000. You spent every dollar. And when the investigator finally came for you, he happened to be the man she married. That's not a mistake. That's justice. The squad car door closed. The screaming stopped. Then Paul started clapping. Slow, deliberate claps that carried the weight of 9 years of quiet support. Sandra joined. Then my colleagues. Then Gabriel's co-workers. The applause grew until it filled the entire backyard. It wasn't celebration of her arrest. It was celebration of my survival. Someone handed me a glass of lemonade with extra ice, the way I liked it. Sandra wiped her eyes and hugged me tight, careful of my pregnant belly. In that moment, I understood that chosen family isn't just a phrase. It's the people who stand beside you when the worst thing you can imagine walks into your baby shower wearing designer gifts and crocodile tears. For a moment, the backyard was completely silent. Then Paul Morrison started clapping. Slow, deliberate. Then Sandra joined him. Then everyone else. The baby shower turned into something else. A celebration that I'd survived. That the truth had finally been told. That the person who tried to erase me had failed. The next 6 days moved quickly. April 13th. My mother was held without bail at Franklin County Jail. Flight risk. April 18th. Arraignment. She pleaded not guilty. Her public defender looked exhausted. April 20th. Probable cause hearing. The judge reviewed the evidence. He found sufficient cause to proceed. April 25th. The prosecutor offered a plea deal. Plead guilty to all 4 charges. Allocution hearing. Sentencing recommendation of 15 years. The alternative was going to trial, where the evidence would be made public, and she'd likely face 20. My mother's lawyer showed her the evidence. The confession letter, the school records, the forged documents, the financial trail. April 28th. My mother accepted the plea deal. I didn't attend the sentencing hearing. I was 8 months pregnant and exhausted. But I submitted a written victim impact statement. The judge read it privately. What I wrote: she didn't just abandon me, she erased me. She made money from my suffering. She spent 17 years thinking she'd gotten away with it. I don't forgive her. I don't have to. I'm building a life where she doesn't exist. That's my justice. The judge sentenced her to 15 years in the Ohio Reformatory for Women. He also ordered restitution, $285,000 plus interest and penalties, $491,000 total, to be garnished from any future earnings for the rest of her life. He issued a permanent no-contact restraining order. She was not permitted to contact me, Gabriel, or our children, ever. She was transferred to Marysville that afternoon. Gabriel came home and told me it was done. Over. I asked him if it felt like closure. He said, "It feels like you're safe. That's better." April 29th, 2026. Gabriel and I met with our attorney. Nationwide had made a settlement offer, $500,000, separate from the criminal restitution. It was their acknowledgement that their investigation in 2009 had been insufficient. They called it a good faith resolution. Our attorney said we didn't have to accept it. We could sue for more emotional damages, pain, and suffering. I thought about it. Then I said no. I didn't want more money. I just wanted it to be over. We accepted the settlement. Then I made a decision about how to use it. $150,000 went to Sandra and Paul Morrison. They tried to refuse. I insisted. "You saved my life. You gave me a home. You chose me when no one else did. This isn't payment. It's gratitude." Sandra cried. Paul hugged me. They accepted. $200,000 went into a college fund for the baby. Invested. Untouchable until she turned 18. The remaining $150,000 went to a nonprofit called Forever Counted Foundation. It was an Ohio-based foster care advocacy organization. Their mission: every child deserves to be seen, heard, and counted, not erased. I named the donation in memory of the 9-year-old girl who was declared dead but refused to disappear. That night, Gabriel and I sat in the nursery. The walls were painted a soft yellow. There were bookshelves already filled with baby books. On one shelf sat Cotton, the stuffed rabbit I'd carried through the worst parts of my childhood. On the wall was a framed photo, my library card from 2008, the one Sandra had given me. The one that said, "Elise Shepherd." The one that proved I was real. Gabriel rubbed my belly. 6 more weeks. I nodded. "Are you ready?" He smiled. "Are you?" I thought about it. About the girl who'd been thrown away. The girl who'd been declared dead. The girl who'd built a life anyway. I've been ready my whole life. April 30th, 2026. The Morrisons invited us over for a quiet dinner. Just Sandra, Paul, Gabriel's parents, and 2 close friends. Nothing big. Just family. We sat in the backyard, the same backyard where my mother had been arrested 18 days earlier. But it didn't feel haunted anymore. It felt reclaimed. Someone asked the question I'd been waiting for. Gabriel's mother. A kind woman. Well-meaning. "Elise, have you thought about whether you'll ever forgive her?" The table went quiet. I put down my fork. I thought about my answer. "I don't forgive her," I said. "Forgiveness isn't something I owe to someone who declared me dead for profit. She didn't make a mistake. She made a choice. And then she made that choice over and over for 17 years. I paused. But I also don't think about her anymore. She's in prison. I'm here. I'm married to a man who spent months protecting me without me even knowing it. I'm about to become a mother. I have parents." I looked at Sandra and Paul, "who chose me when no one else did." Sandra's eyes were wet. "My mother spent 17 years thinking she got away with erasing me, but I was never erased. I was here the whole time, building this." I gestured around the table, at Gabriel, at the Morrisons, at the people who loved me. She took $285,000. I took my life back. And in 6 weeks, I'm bringing a new life into this world. A life that will grow up knowing she was wanted from the second she existed. I smiled. It wasn't bitter. It wasn't angry. It was just true. That's not forgiveness. That's something better. That's proof that she failed. I looked at Gabriel. His hand was on mine. "I'm still here." The sun was setting. Light filtered through the trees in the backyard. Through the window, I could see into the nursery. Cotton rabbit on the shelf. The framed library card catching the light. In 6 weeks, I would give birth to a daughter. We'd name her Sandra Eleanor Whitmore. Sandra for the woman who'd saved me. Eleanor for the girl I used to be. The girl who'd been declared dead, but refused to stay buried. My mother would write letters from prison, 3 in the first month alone, asking me to visit, asking me to bring the baby, asking me to forgive her. I would return them all unopened, because some people don't get to be part of your story just because they started it. And some people earn their place by showing up when it matters. My name is Elise Shepherd. I was declared dead at 10. I'm alive at 28. And that's the only ending that matters.